we are going to paint the skin, which is very important as well. I'm mixing dark brown and a bit of purple ink to create the base coat. I'm going to make a dark skin and I paint a base coat over almost everything except the tip of the tail, that is going to be red, and the upper part of the wings. After applying the base coat of the skin, I'm going to use the wine red, which is a cold red and a very different red to the others I have used in the armor plates. I'm going to paint those upper part of the wings and the tip of the tail, and you can see how it covers pretty good over the white areas but very bad in the brown areas. We take advantage of this to blend in between those areas easily just by pushing a bit more with the airbrush in the area where we have the cut. It's very easy to control how it blend because the brown is not an area where the red is covering pretty good, so it is like glazing. It's more controllable. Same thing here in the head. I'm going to paint the upper part of the head in reddish tones and also the middle part of the tail in reddish tones as well. Finally, with violet ink, I'm going to first apply a new tone between the brown and the red. It's up to you. Many of you maybe don't notice that, but to me it's important. If you want to save a bit of time, you can avoid this step, but it makes the transition, the blending, more believable and beautiful. And also now with this violet ink, I'm boosting the shadows on the dark areas of the skin, because the purple ink, when it accumulates and because of the satin finish, is adding a bit more of contrast by darkening those areas. And it doesn't matter if it looks a bit satin right now, because I'm going to work over the skin in the future steps and I'm going to matte it with the new paints. So this is how it looks. It is very useful to me to see the overall look of the figure and the colors placed in the different areas to decide the future steps, for example, the color of the wings or other things. And maybe I can glue some parts to work over them without having to hold them with my hands. I need to jump to the face. This is a bit chaotic process maybe because I'm going to one part to another, but it's very useful and needed when painting very big figures like this. You need to finish different parts or advance different parts at the same time. But maybe now that you can watch the video, maybe you can follow another order. But when I paint big projects like this, I prefer to go in this way. So as you see, I have painted the tongue the first because I don't want to stain the teeth after painting them, basically. And now I'm taking those two colors from Ten Labs, which is a new brand of color that I enjoyed a lot, very saturated, covers pretty good. And the idea is mix those colors and start building the volumes. At the end, they are like a wine red and a neutral red, so you can took those colors if you don't have the Ten Labs ones. Obviously, colors are the same in any part of the world. And the idea, as I said, is mix both colors to create some kind of cold red, but not very cold, and start creating the volumes. I'm following the same idea as if he was a real or normal face, but I know it's a monster face, but don't worry, more or less it's the same thing. You have to focus in the cheekbones, upper lip, nose, forehead, etc. You have a video about how to paint faces in the Patreon as well. So as I said, I'm focusing in building volumes in this way by adding a bit of white over the previous mixture. As you see, I have lost a lot of saturation and reddish look. This is very common when painting red tones, so I have decided to add a bit of yellow to my red or my pink created to create a salmon tone. You know, the salmon color is like an orange pink, something like this, a mix of both of them. And with this salmon tone, I have luminosity enough to build the final highlight in the face without losing too much the reddish look. Anyway, if you have lost a lot of the reddish look, no problem with that, because as you will see in a few seconds, we can take again the red from our wet palette and apply some glazes in the mid-tones, that means in the area between the shadow and the light, to recover part of this red that we have lost in the previous steps. Don't forget to paint the wrinkles in the side of the eye, the lower eyelid, and the upper part of the eye, the upper eyelid at the end. And use this same combo of colors to paint any other part of the figure that you have decided to paint in this way. That means, in my case, the tail that I'm showing you, and also the upper part of the wings that we will see in other video. The idea is to make it a bit more luminous, but the tail is not very exposed in the main view, so it doesn't matter too much, or don't focus too much in creating super high contrast in this area. As you see, I'm focusing in painting the upper part, the area with the spikes, and the area where the color is changing to the dark brown, I leave it as I did with the airbrush. Don't waste your time in creating volumes there, it's not needed. Now we have to paint the teeth. My first coat, as you see, is some kind of white ochre. After painting them in this white ochre, I generate the dark lining with a wash with ink, a control wash, which is not exactly the same. And now, adding more white to the base color, we can apply 1 or 2 layers, or 3 layers, it's up to you, of white, of more luminous ochre, to make the teeth more luminous, more white looking, but in any way far from being a pure white, because I think a monster doesn't have a very healthy teeth. I try to make the tip of the teeth more luminous than the base. Despite of the fact that they are not white, they look more or less like white. Finish painting the rest of the bone spikes that are in the armor. I follow the same colors recipe, but pay attention to the angle of those spikes, because in the main view we are only facing with one side, so it's interesting to paint this side more luminous than the other one. And once again, I'm trying to add more light in the tip. The tail has a very great looking spikes, to work a bit more on them. I'm trying to build some organic texture in the spikes by the brush stroke itself. As you see, I am brush stroking in the direction of the tip. That means that in every brush stroke I'm applying, I'm creating some pattern that I'm partially covering with every layer. So at the end I have some kind of texture, organic texture on those elements. And if I put the figure in the main view, you will notice that the lower plane of the spikes are not shown in that view, so I'm letting it very dark or more dark, focusing in painting the upper plane. This inner part, when it meets the red, it's a good idea to outline. This is like a dark lining but with light. it will add more definition. And finally, with smoke from Vallejo and a bit of green ink, I'm pushing a bit more the shadows in the lower planes of the spikes and also in the inner part of the spikes.